A very good morning to everyone this morning. It is indeed good to see each and every one of you. Andrew and I always enjoy our time and look forward to this time of being able to come back and be with our friends and family. And Josh is right. Andrew did indeed grow up here, and I like to say that I grew up here spiritually. Even though I've been in the church a while, before I came here, I grew up here spiritually, thanks to the teaching and the brethren here. And so I consider this my spiritual home as well as a physical home. If you will, open your Bibles with me to Acts chapter 14. Acts chapter 14, verse 26 and 27. Andrew and I are here this morning to bring you good news of what God has been doing in Paraguay. Every year we come back and we like to let you know about the things that is happening in Paraguay. But there's a Bible precedent for these type of reports, and I want to share that with you in Acts chapter 14. At the end of the chapter there, this is after Paul and Barnabas had been commissioned by the Holy Spirit and sent off by the church in Antioch, have gone out and done their work, and so here they come back, and we pick up the story in verse 26. It says, "From there they sailed to Antioch, where they had been commended to the grace of God for the work which they had completed. Now, when they had come and gathered the church together, they reported all that God had done with them and that He had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles." That is exactly what Andrew and I are doing this morning. That's the Bible precedent. We were commended by this church to go down to Paraguay to work, and we've been there now for a little over 6 years. And so we're back now at this time to bring you the news of what God is doing in Paraguay, because He is the one who provides the increase. And so I want to share with you, some of you might not remember where Paraguay is. A lot of you have been to Paraguay, which just thrills our hearts to know that there are people here that know the people that are in these pictures. But if you don't remember where Paraguay is, it's right in the middle of South America. It's a landlocked country of about 7 million people. Andrew and I work in the city of Asunción, and in that city there's a little over 2 million people. So you can see that the fields are indeed white unto harvest. And over the years, I've brought lots of pictures and lots of information, and I know Josh and Kara have done as well, about the culture in Paraguay. It's a very unique and beautiful culture. Everything from the dos besos, the 2 kisses, to the chipa, the cornbread type bread that they have there, to the fabulous public transportation system that we have, as you can see from the pictures here, as well as just a lot of unique things. It's a Latin culture, and so it's got a lot of flair and a lot of gusto, as we say, and so it's a lot of fun and a very interesting culture to live in, and just a beautiful people, the Paraguayans. And so the mission in which we have been involved with since 2010 has really been blessed because God has been working there. And as I was putting together these reports, I got to thinking about, wow, I can't believe it's already been over 6 years since we've been there. And just in the amount of time, in 2010, whenever Josh and Karen and Andrew and I went down there and began working, I started putting together and looking at some of the things that were happening. And we'll get to that picture in just a moment. I forgot I was a little jumping ahead of myself here. Let me show you real quick. This is where we work. This is the church facility, the facility of Avenida Sacramento. This is the congregation. This is the meeting facility of the congregation that was established on Sacramento Avenue, Avenida Sacramento. This is inside. This is the congregation in worship. This is actually in 2014. In fact, you can still see there's Josh right there. And so this picture was taken during our homecoming. Now, a lot of the people that are in this picture at the time were not Christians, are now part of the congregation there. So it's still an accurate picture. But this is our most recent picture of the congregation. This was at our church camp that we had just last Sunday. And this is by no means all of the brethren in Paraguay, but this is the Church of Christ in Paraguay. And actually both congregations represented here of the San Lorenzo Church of Christ as well as the Avenida Sacramento. And I noticed some of you are going to say, wait a minute, I thought it was called Nyembu. I'm going to explain that in just a moment. The history of the work started in the 1970s with a couple of Chilean brethren who came to Paraguay to plant the church there. That's these 2 gentlemen right here, this one and this one. And they worked for several years, planted what's called the Centro Church of Christ. They're in downtown. And then in the 1980s, another American family came down, and they were the Force McDonald family, worked for 5 years and helped establish another congregation. So for a long time, there were two congregations. And then in 2003, many of you know Chris and Vicki and the team from Freed-Hardeman. They went down there and established the Avenida Sacramento congregation. By the time 2010 came, they had recruited replacements, if you will. So Josh and Kara and Andrea and I went down, joined up with Perry and Alba Harden right here, and then Brittany and Ali Yegros to form the team that followed behind. And all the other missionaries by this time had transitioned back to the States. Now, 1 Corinthians 3, verse 6 says that Paul planted and Apollos watered, and God gives the increase. And so since we were coming in behind this team that planted Avenida Sacramento, we called ourselves Team Apollos. And so we worked side by side with the Blackmers and the Hardens, and of course the Blackmers have transitioned back to the States, as you well know, and so has Perry and Alba. They are now at Freed-Hardeman University. He's teaching there. And then Brittany has two young, beautiful children, and so she's much more limited in what she can do with the mission team. So Andrea and I are the last ones of the mission team that will be finishing this next year, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. Now here's the picture that I was alluding to a minute ago. Looking back since the time that we've got there, and there were a lot more baptisms before Josh and Kara and Andrea and I arrived there, but just looking back, since we've been there in 2010, the various souls that have been added to the Lord's kingdom, and just looking at this picture and looking back over the years really, really warmed my heart to see. Whenever this verse says that what God had done to open the door of faith to the Gentiles or to the world, here is evidence. And brethren, you had a part in this, supporting Josh, Karen, Andrew, and myself being down there. This is, as Paul says in Philippians, is added to your account. And so we give God the glory for the souls that have been added. And there's been more than what's on this picture that you see here, all these different pictures. And you'll see Josh in there and Perry and the other missionaries that we worked with over these past few years. And then this is the past couple of years. Last year, I think I remember showing this picture. Javier Arce is a young man who was actually a family man who was invited by the widow of one of those original missionaries that came over. She's the widow of one of the Chileans that came over. She invited him to church. Brother Ike studied with him, and he was baptized. I remember telling you about Alan Suarez. He's the son of one of our sisters in Christ there, that he has a very tender heart, and he studied, and he was added to the kingdom. And then I think right about the time I was here, this baptism took place last year. Nicholas Osorio, he is the cousin of our Bible Academy student, and also from Niembu, Nati Osorio. And she taught him the gospel, taught her own family the gospel. And then some of us men came in and worked with him and talked with him, and then he was baptized. And then also in the last year we had David Salvioni. This young man here is Sebastian. He's also a Bible Academy student, and he taught his friend who lives out in Los Altos, about an hour and a half outside of the city, taught his friend David Salvioni, and then David brought his two friends, Victor and Juanjo, and they were all baptized. So we've got some brethren out in that area that we need to establish a congregation out there, because it's a bit of a distance and difficult for them to get into Avenida Sacramento. And so we have three brethren there that we start the church in that area that we're looking forward and hoping to get started. And then another baptism that took place this last year that we're really excited about is Sergio Jara. Sergio is the husband of Micaela Jara. And you might remember this picture from last year. These three ladies were baptized. This is Micaela, his wife. This is his daughter, Stefania. And this is their neighbor, Francisca. And he was there. Sergio was there when they were baptized. He saw the baptism. He was there on the studies. And he has continued to be involved in studies. In fact, here's a picture that was taken whenever we were there studying with him. And over we touched on what it means to be saved and what it means to be baptized. And he knew the Scriptures, but he knew it was also a very, very serious decision. And so he wanted to make sure that he was doing the right thing. And so we rejoiced that he was baptized. But it's interesting that this baptism came about. You might remember a couple of years ago I talked about this young man right here, Alex, who came to the church and brought his friend there, Fabian, because somebody had put a flyer in his mailbox. And it was talking about tithing. And so he came to investigate to see what that was all about. We studied with him, and he was baptized, he and Fabian. They were so excited they went and told their friends about it. Here's Sebastian, who you saw just a moment ago, and Marcelo. Both of them came, and they met the church, and they studied, and they were baptized. And they were so excited, then they told their friends. That's where Micaela comes in. And they've had an ongoing study all this time. Every week there's a study in their house for the last 2 years. And so through that, Stefania's boyfriend, Marcelo, was baptized. And then Micaela and Sergio's son, Rodrigo, he was baptized because of those studies. And there's still 3 other young ladies in that family that are involved in the studies, and I'm sure will be baptized soon. And then now, Sergio. All of this from somebody just putting a flyer in the mailbox of a young man by the name of Alex. And so it just shows you the power of the Word. And we use this a lot whenever groups come down, like Palm Beach Lakes, and a lot of people don't speak Spanish, and so it's kind of hard to make those connections and communicate that way. So we use the manpower to just spread as much as we can, publications, flyers, and things like that, just trying to get the word out, and it works. And so people come and want to know what this church is about that they read about in these flyers. Another exciting baptism was Sammy Ortiz. Sammy is the son of Mabel Ortiz and the sister of Ivana. Mabel and Ivana were English students of Andrea's whenever we would teach English using the Bible. And so you saw their baptisms a couple of years ago. And so now their son has been baptized. Now Sammy wanted to be baptized a couple of years ago. Came up to me, said he wanted to be baptized. So I sat down and studied with him. I said, well, Sammy, why do you want to be baptized? And he said to me, I want to drink that grape juice. And I said, well, I don't think you quite understand what it means to be baptized, and so why don't we study a little more and everything, and one day I'm sure you'll be. Well, he understands very well now. He has grown to be a very responsible young man, and Sammy sits on the front row every Sunday, and not only does he drink the grape juice, but he gets to pass out the plates now with the grape juice, and he is God's servant. Let me tell you, he is very much a dedicated, wonderful young man, and praying that he will grow up to be one of the Lord's servants as a preacher, or even one day a deacon or an elder. Another baptism is Cynthia Medina. Cynthia is the fiance of Fabio Ruiz, who was baptized last year and is a member there at the Nyimbu Church of Christ. And then this one is Mario Arteta. Mario is the son of Diosnel Arteta. And Josh knows this very well. Diosnel is, he's a very interesting character. I think about people like Raccoon John Smith, who they say preached to over 5,000 people. And this is back in the 1800s when they didn't have microphones and speakers. So he must have had a booming voice. Well, that's what Diosnel has. He can speak to 5,000 people just without any microphone. But Diosnel had been withdrawn from. And you might remember a few years ago, I put his picture up here. He had been restored to the faith after about 10 years of being separated from the church. His heart had finally realized the need for repentance, and so he was restored to the Lord. And in that time, he's been teaching his son the gospel, and now his son is a member of the Lord's church. And that's Mario there, that he taught his son the gospel and is now part of it. And then, just this past Sunday, this gentleman here, this is Marcos Dominguez. He is the boyfriend of our sister in Christ, Silvina Jimenez. Silvina came to the church also through the English program. This is Kara's student. Is that right, Kara? That whenever she came to learn the Bible using English, and Kara taught her the gospel, and she was baptized. Josh baptized her there. I remember in the pool at the hotel. And now her boyfriend, as well as many of her family members, is a member of the Lord's church. So we give God the glory for these souls being added to the church. And that's what it's all about. That's the reason that we're there, is to spread the gospel, to teach the gospel, to teach others the gospel, and that's exactly what's happening. So we're excited to see what's happening, and we'll tell you that's not all there is to mission work. There's a lot of other things involved. And so I want to share some of the events and activities that are taking place. We had, for example, a couple of interns come down from Brazil and work with us for a year. They lived there on the premises there at the church building. We have some dormitories out back. And they were very, very involved in Bible studies and doing lots of things, activities and stuff. And here, they helped us develop a class for our youth, for our adolescent youth. Youth in Paraguay goes from about 12 years old to about 26 years old. Well, a 12, 14, 15-year-old doesn't relate real well to a 25, 26-year-old, so we started to get more of that age group, so they helped us develop that class. And here you can see there's Sammy and his sister Ivana, and there's Rodrigo, so they're helping us get that class developed. They did a lot of great work. And, baptisms warm the heart to see those sort of things, but these type of pictures right here are what get me excited. This is what I love to see, and what I really brings me a lot of joy is Paraguayans teaching other Paraguayans. So what we have right here, this is Karen. She is one of our graduates from the Asuncion Bible Academy, and here she's leading a ladies class. Here's Ale, who many of you know as Brittany's husband. He saw a gap in some of the teaching with the 8 to 12-year-olds, so he decided to start teaching them. Here's some of our young ladies teaching the children. And then here's Pedro Vera teaching class Sunday morning. In fact, we had a leadership class where we were teaching about elders and deacons, what it means to be an elder and a deacon. And he is a candidate to be an elder, so we had him teach the class, him and Ike. And then some of the brethren who are eligible to be deacons, we had them teaching the class about what it means to be a deacon. And so it was a very provechoso class. I can't think of the word in English, but it was one of those classes that worked very well for us. They're very active in a lot of the things that they're doing, like the ladies' teas and things. So here you can see also some of our ladies gathered, and here's a Paraguayan, as well as the young men. They like to get together and play soccer, but they always have a devotional at these, and they invite their friends, and so they're getting to know the church. And then this is a picture from the church camp. Here is Enrique teaching, and so these are the kind of things that get me excited to see the Paraguayans teaching each other, because that's what Paul teaches us in 2 Timothy 2:2, to teach others who are capable of teaching others. Andrew and I are also involved in the teaching and as well as evangelizing and Bible studies, and here you can see is a picture me teaching at Avenida Sacramento as well as Nimbus. And this is Andrea helping, this is actually Mirta, our church secretary's nephew, helping him with his English for a application that he was applying to go to Korea. So it was kind of interesting, but she worked with him as well as Fernando here. This is Mirta's son, and she's teaching him English. And so Andrea is involved in lots of different studies as well, usually teaching English using the Bible. Some of the exciting things that happened as well as this past year is the Paraguayans are starting to understand and recognize that in just a short time there will no longer be American missionaries there working with them. So we have these meetings called Vision 2020 meetings. They were talking about what is the church going to look like 5 years from now, whenever it started in 2015, whenever there are no missionaries, and they're taking care of everything. So they've had lots of meetings talking about things like they want to continue the Bible Academy, they want to plant more churches, and they want to be involved in lots of different things and trying to figure out what to do with evangelism. And one of the things that helped in that was Preston Silcox and Ed Temple from the Margaret Street Church of Christ came down and said, basically, if you want to plant churches, well, we would like to help you do that. And so we will be your basically resource or help. We will help you in any way that you need to be able to plant churches. So just we'd like to form a partnership with you and work with you and helping you with churches. So one of the things we're hoping to do is, by the Paraguayans leading this, is to form teams of an Americans and Paraguayans to go and plant churches. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a moment at the end of the presentation. One of the things that happened this year is the first of the year, I went into the men's business meeting and I said, brethren, I said, 1 year from now, I said, Andrew and I will be transitioning back to the United States, and so there will no longer be American missionaries here. doing a lot of the things that you have us doing. For example, they take care of all of their own facturas. What is that? Their bills. Take care of their own bills and take care of their own finances and stuff. And so they do a lot of the decisions on their own. But since I'm at the church building all the time, if there's a leak or if there's a problem or something, they just tell me to take care of it. And so I'll take care of a lot of the maintenance that happens at the church building, as well as I organize the teaching for the classes and stuff like that. I organize and take care of a lot of the administrative things, the office, like I pay Mirta, the payroll, stuff like that, the church secretary. Actually, she's the team secretary. And so I let them know, I said, it's not really fair that this time next year, all of a sudden, boom, you're just kind of stuck with everything or left with everything. So starting this year, I'm going to turn all that over to you. I'm no longer going to do any of those things. It's going to be as if I were not here in that regard. So you're going to make 100% of all the decisions and 100% of everything. You're going to take care and do everything yourself as if I weren't here. Now, I will still be here because I will be fulfilling my duties as the director of the Bible Academy. I will continue preaching. I will continue teaching as you tell me to. And I'll do whatever you need just at your direction. And so I was a little worried of how that would happen, what would take place. Well, they immediately organized family groups. And so every week or every 2 weeks, there's a family group up there taking care of the building. They've got people now taking care of all of the finances as far as the payroll stuff. In fact, I just got a message. They've started today a new series of what they're going to be doing as far as the classes and teaching. And they've just organized everything. In fact, the church camp that they just had was the first time that there was no American involvement. They organized it, they planned it, they did everything, and it was a tremendous success. And so here's a picture of them painting the bars out front because they realized that, well, we need to take care of the building. And so they went out, and one of the things they did was paint. And they even made an announcement. Brethren, Troy and Andrea have announced that they will not be here. You know, they're going back next year. Well, this is our congregation, and this is our church. We need to take care of everything. And so it was great to see them step up and do all these things. It's exciting. I know some of you might think, well, that kind of goes without saying, but this is what we're supposed to teach, and what we're doing there is to teach or to make churches that are self-supporting, self-governing, and self-propagating, and self-theologizing. And so that's what we're doing, and we're excited about that. We also had Palm Beach Lakes come down and encourage the brethren there, did a lot of great things. As far as evangelism, edification, and benevolence. It was great to see all the contacts that were made, and then all the encouragement that was brought and the new friendships that were developed there, as well as a lot of the projects that they helped us with around the church building. So it was wonderful having Palm Beach Lakes with us. It was sad that Lisa got really bad sick. That was a little bit stressful, wasn't it, Josh? But it was a great trip, and everything went real well, and we were excited, even though the Pope kind of messed a few things up. And you know, where the Bible says, where two or more are gathered, we must eat. And so we take that verse very seriously, and I don't know if I've ever seen a table bigger than this one. Man, that thing is huge. I saw this picture, and I don't think I've ever seen a table that long. And I'm not quite sure what our elder is doing with that knife, if he's threatening the person there taking the picture, or just like, come on, let's eat. But we really enjoy our time together and loved having Palm Beach Lakes come down and visit us. Say again?
He had just gotten his wallet stolen.
This is true. This is true. Sadly, I think you might have heard it. Phil had his wallet stolen while he's on the bus. That was a bit of drama. That was not fun. We also had Sister Karen Bennett come down from the Valdosta Church of Christ. For 4 years now, the ladies have invited her to come down and do the ladies retreat, and so we just enjoy having her come down. She's developed some strong friendships with the ladies there, and they just love her, and so we appreciate what she does. We also had an interesting thing happen this past year. Is the Trent Kennedy family. This is a family. He is the I don't know what you call that exact, director of the Bible chair. Some of you might remember hearing about Bible chairs. Universities used to have those. And in San Marcos, they still have a Bible chair. They still have a Church of Christ Student Center there. And he is the director there. And he and his family wanted to come down. They were off for the summer. They wanted to come down and do a little bit more than just a couple of weeks. They wanted to spend maybe 3 months. And so they signed up for 3 months to come down. They came to Paraguay. And just it was wonderful having them. He taught in the Bible Academy for us, taught English using the Bible, and his wife, Lisa, also was teaching English using the Bible. He went on several Bible studies and just really was involved in the church there. And it was great to have another worker and give somebody an opportunity to see what long-term mission work is about. So we really enjoyed having he and his family, especially his children. His son's name is Troy, so here's little Troy helping Troy lead singing. And they were fun. And you tell them stories, and I just love you. She gets all excited whenever, this is Ella, and you can see her tender little heart, and she gets all excited when you tell them stories. So it was fun to have them there. The Bible Academy is doing very well. The students are in their second year of studies. I was kind of apprehensive and waiting to see what would happen. Whenever we finish that first year, we have a month break, and then that Monday morning, waiting to see how many of them come back for the second year. And they all did. So we are excited with them. This is Sebastian and Alex, Letty, Nati, and Elvira, our current students that we have, and they're doing real well. And they have really raised the bar as far as their level. They are writing college-level research papers, and some of the sermons and things like that and lessons that they're developing are just outstanding. In fact, this past week, I was teaching class. I'll show you a picture of that. I was teaching class there this past week in Paraguay via the video system. We also have been doing things like, here's a picture of the students in Hernandarias. It's one of the places we want to plant the church, and so we went over there to take a lot of information and do a survey trip so we can bring this information back to the men of the congregation, and then it'll help them to make some decisions as far as what we do in planting churches. And here is Alex and Sebastian practicing. We're teaching them how to administer baptism. For those of you who have ever baptized somebody, realize that it's not all that easy if you don't know what you're doing. And so helping them to understand what's involved and what to say and things like that in administering a baptism. And here's a picture of the students. A lot of them have never even been to the other side of their country, which is about the size of California, much less outside of the country. And so as a reward for the hard work that they did, we took them over to Iguazu Falls. First time for them to see that, and they were all excited to be able to do some international travel. One of the blessings that we've had this past year was a video system that was installed and donated by the Bear Valley Bible Institute of Denver. And so we've been able to take advantage of teachers here in the United States. Whenever Josh and Perry moved back to the United States, I lost two of my best professors, and so it put a lot more emphasis on what I need to do. Well, I was able, fortunately, with this video system, be able to take advantage of some of the teachers here. And this is Enrique Morales, who is teaching the students. There's a screenshot. And then, as I mentioned, this week, I was teaching from here in the church building at Palm Beach Lakes. I was teaching Philippians and Colossians via Skype because we had a problem with the video system, which hope to get fixed real soon. But we're able to teach is the best thing. We've got the equipment now where we were able to teach long distance. And so even after moving back to the United States, I'm hoping to be able to continue teaching. And here's Alex, that one who received the flyer in his mailbox. Here he is practicing preaching. And so this is in a homiletics class with Alex preaching. Another exciting thing that happened this year is, and the students were involved, was we translated several songs into Guarani. Some of you might know that in Paraguay, they speak two languages. They speak Spanish, and as you go in the interior, they speak Guarani, an Indian language. Now it dawned on us, why don't we have any songs in Guarani if that's their heart language? And that's how people a lot of times understand and connect in worship is via the singing that we do. Why don't we have any songs in the heart language? And so what we did is we took several songs directly out of the Bible and translated them just like we translate our songs in English. In fact, this is one that you might recognize we did. We took right out of the Bible from Philippians 4. And you know that song, Rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. And again I say rejoice. You recognize that? Well, in Spanish, not quite the same, but we take it out of one of the versions, and it sounds like Alégrense en Cristo, alégrense siempre, alégrense, alégrense siempre. It's pretty, isn't it, in Spanish? Well, Guarani is a little more difficult. And even though we took it directly out of the Guarani Bible, this is directly, you can read these exact words out of the Guarani Bible, it still works, but it sounds a little different. Pe vu a opa ara nyande jara re ra pe ha e je u pe e me pe vu a. Woo! It took a long time to learn that, Josh. And there's other songs, the Galatians 2:20. I was crucified in Christ. Wow, I don't even attempt it. It's so many syllables and so many I can't do it. So, but it's exciting to hear the Paraguayans. Wow, they get excited whenever they sing these Guarani songs. And so whenever we have those now in a new song book that we redid. And so we have about 12 of these now that are in Guarani, and it is really neat to see the Paraguayans singing in Guarani. Our missionary from Panama that was hired by the Avenida Sacramento to be the evangelist at the Niembua Church of Christ has gotten married. So he came down and we contracted with him, if you will, for about 2 years, and he has done such a wonderful job. We were thinking, we hope he stays in Paraguay. Well, we got him now. He married a Paraguayan girl, so him and Raquel had a wonderful, beautiful wedding, and it was great to see them, and now just a strong couple in the Lord, and he's got a lot of big plans. My dad and my brother finally got to come down and visit me and Andrea in Paraguay, and so I took them around to some of the sites, and then I had the pleasure of getting to translate them teaching and preaching, and so it was really fun to have my dad and my brother come down. And we also had some other visitors, the David Carter family, which is missionaries in Panama. Their son is serving as the Peace Corps in Paraguay, and so they came down to visit him, and they knew we were there. We know them, and so they came to visit, and it was fun to have them by. And actually, here's my brother preaching in Niembua. Now, I want to tell you about the Niembua Church of Christ. Some of you might remember this picture, and some of you have been there. This is the church building where the Niembua Church of Christ was meeting, and they just really haven't grown that much in the last 2 years. And even though they've been knocking on doors and everything else, they finally were talking to some of the neighbors, and some of the neighbors said, well, that was an old Pentecostal church, and that preacher over there was not very nice, and I'm never stepping foot in that building ever again. And apparently that was the sentiment of the neighborhood, and so we thought, well, that's not going to work. So they, not only that, the owner wasn't helping them with any of the leaking roof and stuff like that, so they decided it's not worth it, so they moved back to Vicente's house, and here we are sitting underneath the mango tree with worship one Sunday. And so they started thinking, well, you know what, we need to find another place, and they couldn't find exactly what they wanted, so they decided to go to another town, San Lorenzo, and they found this place, and so now they have a really nice air-conditioned, newer place right on the main route, and not only that, and let me show you this map here of Asuncion. Here is the Avenida Sacramento Church of Christ location, here's Centro and more downtown, and here you can see that yellow arrow is San Lorenzo, and down below is Niembua. Well, San Lorenzo is right in the heart of where a lot of their members were coming from. They were coming from out here, and the rest of them here, and some of them from here. So they thought, why don't we just go to the middle of everybody? And so now they have moved the church building to their location rather, to San Lorenzo. And since then, we've actually had some of our own members at Avenida Sacramento who were coming from out here have now said, well, that's more convenient. And so we've had a bit of a membership shakeup between the two congregations. And some people are worried about that, think, oh, no, we're losing members. And I'm saying, no, they're getting more stability. They're getting some longtime members now that can go in and fill those leadership positions and make sure that, and so now we have two churches that are going to grow and more opportunity. And so San Lorenzo is a whole lot easier to say than Niembua. Is that true? So now it's the San Lorenzo Church of Christ, and we're excited for them. They are excited, and they're already growing, and so it's going to be a wonderful thing to see what happens in the next couple of years of both of these congregations growing. So that's what's happening. And I want to share with you real quick, if you don't mind, some personal milestones, because this year has been a special year for Andrea and myself, and one of those things is that this past October Andrea and I celebrated 20 years of marriage. And so we give God the glory for that just as well, because the Lord has blessed us with a strong marriage and a wonderful helpmeet along my side. And we enjoy working together in Paraguay, so it has been great, and we give God the glory for that. As well as, now most men are not supposed to talk about their wife's age, but Andrea said it was okay. We celebrated Andrea's 50th, and I know she doesn't look 50, and her 50th birthday, and so we invited many of our brethren and went to her favorite restaurant and rented out the room for the evening, and just had a wonderful time celebrating her birthday. And then also I earned my black belt in Taekwondo. And this is a South American organization I'm involved in. I'm the first North American to do that. And they let me take my test on July the 4th. And so that was pretty neat. And then I've since gone on to get my certification to be an instructor. And so now I'm also teaching Taekwondo. Now, it's not because I'm afraid of the brethren down there or anything like that. I just needed to get some exercise. And so over the course of 3 years, I kept doing it, and I kept getting better. And so I was able to take the test to become a black belt. Another interesting thing is Ace Hardware has moved to Paraguay. Josh, we no longer have to go around to 50 different ferreterias to get what we need. They have it all right there at Ace, and it's right down the road from the church building. And so we're excited to have that. But the interesting thing is they wanted to teach Paraguayans how to have a traditional American turkey dinner, like a Thanksgiving dinner. And so they asked the Las Amigas Club to come down, and Andrea and is the vice president, along with Kim, the president, went down, and just like Martha Stewart was showing how to do a turkey. It was pretty interesting. It had TV cameras and everything. It was neat. And I just want to show you this picture real quick. This is some of the 1,500 cookies that Andrea baked in about 2 weeks' time for a Christmas order, lots of Christmas orders she had. So she's what, and they say in Spanish in Paraguay, is that she's muy guapa, which means in Paraguay means she's a hard worker, and that is indeed true. Proverbs 31. Some of you have been following the banana saga. This is the bananas that as we were leaving, we had to leave them in that state right there, so we're kind of bummed we didn't really get to enjoy. And then, a Florida girl in snow is always exciting. That's in Denver, not Paraguay. Oh yeah, that's in Denver. This is Paraguay, this is Denver. Big difference. I want to show you this picture. This is the Continent Care Connection. This is a conference that the missionaries all over South America, English-speaking, mostly American missionaries that are serving all over South America every 2 years, has this missionary conference. And I just wanted to show you this picture because it just shows you this is all the Church of Christ. These are some of the, this is not all of the missionaries, but the majority of the missionaries working in South America, and it's neat to get to be with them and hear their stories, what they're going through, and a lot of the same things that we're experiencing. And then also I've been working on my master's degree in missions. That snow picture was taken there at Bear Valley. I got to sit at the feet of Brother Dave Chamberlain, who was in New Zealand the same time that Dan and Judy were in New Zealand. So he was telling me some stories about how they used to get together and have dinners together and things like that. So it was very nice to get to meet him. So that's what's happening in Paraguay and some of our personal things. And so you've heard me say that Andrew and I are moving back to the United States, and so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And in that case, what's next? Well, if we're moving back, what happens to Paraguay? And so that word next is, we're taking that and we're using what's called Paraguay Proxima, which means the next step. What is going to be the next thing for the church there? Well, first of all, as we mentioned, Andrew and I are going to finish our final year as missionary service in Paraguay. We're going to graduate the 5 students from the Asuncion Bible Academy. And then we'll be moving back, returning in the spring, this time next year, 2017. And we'll be assisting a church plant that'll be taking place in Milton, Florida. Margaret Street Church of Christ wants to plant a church in that community a little further out from where they're at. And they have a plan. They would like for Andrew and I to come help them. So we're going to be coming back and going to work there and helping with that church plant. But they've also want to stay involved with the work in Paraguay. So they're going to allow me to go back, and me and Andrea to go back 2 or 3 times a year to be able to lead groups, teach and preach. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing is continued evangelization. We're going to be leading small groups down there that want to go. We've got groups from Texas and Georgia and places like that want to go. So we'll be heading up those groups and taking regular trips to Paraguay and that capacity, as well as continue to strengthen and encourage and teaching. With that video system, I'll be able to stay involved with the Bible Academy, teaching classes, as well as taking frequent trips down there to teach classes. We're actually looking for a director to take my place once I come back to the States. There's a rumor, maybe one of the former missionaries might be coming back to take place. I don't want to reveal too much on that, so he's still thinking about it. But there's that. I've just been talking to other people that might be interested, as well as forming these teams that will go help plant churches. And the most important thing is to help them plant churches in Paraguay. That's what they want to do. It's what the brethren there are planning. And so, here we are in Asunción, and these are some of the major cities around that we've already done survey trips to. And so we're making plans, and we're trying to put together ideas and looking for missionaries who might want to join up with the Paraguayans and go plant churches in there. So a lot of exciting things are happening there in Paraguay. So we will continue the work in Paraguay, just like Paul and Barnabas did. They didn't come back to Antioch after you read that in chapter 14 and stay there. They went back, and they went back several times to see how their brethren are doing and kept them, encouraging them and helping them in growing. So that's what's happening in Paraguay Proxima, the next step. So thank you very much. I heard that first bell ring. We want to say thank you for all your love and your support and your prayers. I ask you to please keep us in your prayers. Keep the work in your prayers, especially the church planting that's taking place. There's going to be taking place real soon. And we just give God the glory to all those things. And I hope you've been encouraged by the things that you've heard this morning by the work in Paraguay. So thank you for your time, and God bless. Andrea?
They don't need to worry. Josh isn't the former missionary.
Oh, yeah, we're not stealing Josh. Don't worry, we're not stealing Josh. He's not the former missionary. No. Andrew, want to make that clear. So thank you very much, brethren. God bless.